My pen broke, sorry.
And it projects.
Projectile breaking. Okay. Humerus and clavicle. We are going to show those erect. So I'm going to be at 40 inches to the upright bucky. This is easier for the patient. They can be done recumbent. If the humerus is done recumbent, generally recumbent, then it is done tabletop a lot of times. But this is going to be showing in the bucky, so don't be surprised if you just see people do them tabletop and lay people down and do it. The only thing nice about being upright is the fact that there's not pressure on that arm to the patient. And the same thing with the clavicle, because you may not think about it, but that getting up and getting down pulls all through the shoulder and the clavicle too. So we'll do that. So I'm going to start with the humerus, and I'm just going to line that up before we get started. I'm going to use the 14 by 17 lengthwise.
That would have really hurt if that one was
It wouldn't be the first time. Oh, gosh, I got all the back there. Patient preparation, yeah, best practice, you probably will not see this. Everything off from the waist up, particularly with a female, the bra would need to come off though, mostly because the adjuster ends up in the way somewhere. You know, if they have on a sports bra, it could be okay, but it's best just to say everything from the waist up, gown on. Necklaces or chains need to come off. Other jewelry would be okay, but anything that hangs down that could be over the clavicle will be a problem. Okay? So, I'm going to push it to come up here.
She's a real smart patient.
Do what?
I said she's a real smart patient.
She's very smart. She's a good patient.
You get lots of x-rays?
She does.
I do. I'm here every week. Sometimes
You're very punny.
5 times a week. 5 times a week. Frequent flyer.
You're very punny.
Frequent flyer. Yeah.
She's a wuss. She's just a wuss. Okay, I'm going, because of the way the arm is going to be positioned, with the AP humerus, I'm just going to have her bring her arm out, palm up. That puts the arm at an angle, so we're really using the cassette diagonally, okay? And because of that, you can actually open up the collimation as far as it'll go lengthwise, because you're going to be going from corner to corner, so it'll read past the 17, and that's okay, because corner to corner, it is more than 17. Okay? And we're going to just turn this to meet the angle of her arm. Let's just step away from me. Purple. Watch here at the elbow. I'm going to turn her arm back a little bit so that her epicondyles are parallel. Now I just centered it to her arm how I want it. Now I'm turning it back because now I got to make sure I'm centered to my cassette. Okay. So I turn it back to do that, and then I'm going to turn it back to meet the angle of her arm. Now, in checking this, what I want to check is, do I have all the elbow? So I need to have light extending below the elbow. If you can place your finger on top of the shoulder and see all the shadow of your finger, then you know you have the top of the shoulder. Okay. To make sure you have the joint in medially, follow the head of the humerus around, and then check. Follow the head of the humerus, and then make sure you have about 3 finger widths of light. Then you know you'll have all of the joint on there, because you do have to get all of the shoulder joint included. Okay, and notice that I did turn back the angle a little bit so that it allowed me to collimate and not have so much light field there. And I'm going to place my marker anywhere where I have lots of light. Here's my left marker. Okay, now this does include a little bit of the chest, so it's best just to go ahead and have your patient hold their breath, because you could get some motion up at the shoulder. So, arm extended, palm up. You want to make sure the epicondyles are still parallel. The centering they tell you in the book is mid-humerus, but you can tell that I'm a little bit more proximal than that, because you've got to include all the shoulder joint. So don't be surprised if you're a little bit closer to the shoulder than you are, but opened up enough to be sure that you include both joints, because the humerus is a long bone. Okay. Okay. Okay, from this one we're going to do the lateral. I'm going to ask my patient to take her palm of her hand and place it on the side of her leg and bring her arm up so that the elbow is bent here. We'd like to get the elbow at about 90 degrees. That way the elbow's lateral. This up. Just recenter this a little bit. Turn that back. Let's back up. Okay. And now I've still got all the elbow joint here. It's close. It's pretty close to 90 degrees. In the book, they just do this turn it in thing. You don't get a lateral elbow with that. So I don't really care for that. Now, when you do this, it does pull the shoulder up away from the board a little bit, but that's okay. And then anywhere along here you can place your mark. I always like to put it wherever I have the most light. So it's less likely to be in the way. And then I'm going to check all the same things. Elbow, shoulder, joint. Just the same thing. Put my finger up here. And I see I have flat field below the elbow. Follow the head of humerus in. Got 3 finger widths of light. And have her hold her breath again. And that is the humerus. AP and lateral. Y'all good with that? Mm-hmm. Doesn't look too bad, does it?
No, that was easy.
A patient who really is hurt because but she'll figure that out. Okay. Now, for the clavicle, I'm going to use the 10 by 12 crosswise. Remember that if you're checking off in here, this is really 24 by 30. So I go into the 24 holes. And just check to be sure that you're actually lined up. If you're not in the right holes, that will not line up. This doesn't always fit in there really tight. We know that. As long as it doesn't fall completely out, you're okay.
Oh.
Now, in collimating for this, I'm going to take the full 12 inches, the full 12 inches wide that I can get. How much I need to collimate top to bottom will vary from person to person. You really never want to be less than 5. Okay, I've been doing hers while I've been at like 6 on hers, so, or 7. I think actually it's 7. I'll see 7, and I'll see if I can collimate down some more. But you're going to center to the clavicle, and yes, the clavicle is very small, but you've got to get both ends of it. Some people have very swoopy clavicles, that there's a big difference up high to down low here. Some people, they're very straight. It just depends. You've got to be sure you've included both ends when you do this. So that is what's going to control how wide you can be. But really, even if the person's tiny, unless it's like a child, I wouldn't go less than 5 just because it gives you a little bit of shoulder and really gives you a little bit more information on it. Okay, so I'm going to let her step here. And now, when the patient presents with a clavicle injury, usually they'll be holding their arm like that. Now, because it hurts. So they're giving some support to it. If it's hanging, that's fine too. My only suggestion is that whatever position they present in, keep the arm in that position for both projections, for the AP and the AP axial. Just so that the shoulder doesn't seem to change a whole lot between positions and cause anything to look off, you know, for the doctor when he looks.
So if they're holding their arm, let them hold it. But if they're just dangling it, let them dangle it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like I said, and even if they changed in between, it wouldn't be a huge big deal, but for consistency's sake, it's better to keep it in the same position.
Okay.
So now I'm going to find her clavicle, which is very easy to see here. And I want to center about mid-clavicle. Just a little bit. All right. Now, like I said, that's at 7. I could probably go 6 on her. Go 6 and be fine. Let her lean forward. I'm going to center this up. The key is you'd like to get the entire, you have to get the entire clavicle. I like that I have some light extending beyond midline because now I know I've got the sternal end, which is coming here. And then the acromial end is here, and so I can see that I have the acromial end. I've got a little bit of light extending beyond the shoulder. If you don't see all of it, that's okay because you won't on people who are broader or more muscular or have more soft tissue. And that's okay because nobody's clavicle is 12 inches long. So if you're centered roughly to the center of it and you can feel good about having the midline, even if you don't come out here, because realize that a lot of this will be soft tissue. So even if you're not out all the way, keep in mind that AC joint's going to be about here. And that really is technically the end of your clavicle, so you should be okay. So I've got that. I'm going to place my marker here to the corner. Because she's erect, her chin is not in the way. If you do these laying on the table, and sometimes people's chins will be in the way, and you'll have to get them to kind of turn their head to keep their chin out of it. So always just be sure that you don't get chin in your light field, because it'll be very distracting and ugly, and plus you don't need to shoot their chin. So, you know, but it's fine on her because she's standing up. But like if somebody was really draggy with their chin, have them lift it up, have them turn their head to the side, something like that to keep it out of the way. And obviously we have a lot of chest here, so we do need to have the patient hold their breath. Critical on this one. I think it's important for the humerus, critical here. Okay, so easy thing next week, hold your breath and hold on.
Okay.
That'll be an easy thing to remember, won't it?
So we don't have to tell them to take a deep breath and hold. Just tell them just hold your breath.
Just hold your breath, don't breathe. And then that'll be our clue to come in. So this would be just our AP clavicle. And then we do the AP axial to project the clavicle up above the shoulder so we can see it free of any superimposition. Now depending on the textbook, that can be anywhere from 15 to 30 degrees. We're just going to go about 15. Okay, usually that's a pretty standard. You might see 15 to 25. I think it's, you know, what people do, but we'll just use 15 and that should be sufficient. The swoopier it is though, the more angle you'll probably need. You know, she has a pretty basic one. I think, you know, it's not real swoopy. I think that's pretty average, and 15 should be fine on that. But if you find that it's way big, then it would probably take more to get it up off the chest. And then we'll bring this down. We're going to angle 15 degrees cephalic. Come back and center exactly where I was before. If your patient doesn't move, you don't have a whole lot to do here. You're going to come back and center right over the clavicle again. I do have to realign here. Come back and have her hold her breath again.
Okay.
But your marker should be good. Everything should be good, but you will have to realign. Now, who's checking off in here this week?
Them.
Me and Katie.
Okay. So that means you'll be out there next week, and you'll be using the digital room. So when we're done today, I'll show you about using the digital room.
So it's fixed?
Yes.
Yay.
Came yesterday. Adam came yesterday.
Yay.
And we are good to go with using that room. So, and then what'll happen is that you two will be in there next week when we do upright stuff.
Okay.
So
exciting.
yes.
And that's the one that you don't have SID because it's always.
Well, you have SID, but it never
Yeah.
changes.
It's always
It's a constant change.
You don't
it's
have
a
to
constant.
remember it.
Correct. Yeah, there's several things. It's a great one. It's almost like cheating.
Okay, so are you done?